All right, gang, welcome to video 8.03. Today we're going to talk about the muscles of the chest. So we've got done we've finished the muscles of the head and the neck, and we're going to move on down to the chest. Now you'll notice two of these. I tried to keep the colors consistent. So this is supposed to be tan. It actually looks a little orange, and this is supposed to be dark green. But on your muscles of the head and neck, you'll notice that the dark green, which we have here, was the trapezius. And that's what we have. The trapezius actually comes around and attaches to part of it. Trapezius is a large, complex muscle, but part of the upper traps connect to your collarbone or your clavicle. That's why when weightlifters focus on this muscle, it starts to look like they don't have a neck because the angle begins to increase, and it gives them that big sloped look they have. Then in what was supposed to be tan, we have sternocleidomastoid. Sternocleidomastoid. And we have the ability here to see the origins for the sternocleidomastoid, the insertions on the mastoid. Here's the insertion on the sternum, and here's the insertion on the clavicle, which we use the Latin term cleido for. So we can see those two insertions. All right, the rest of these guys are new. Let's start up here, closest to the acromion process and the coracoid process on the scapula. So here in blue, what was supposed to be a dark blue, we have the deltoid. And we said back in the first video, this is an example of a convergent muscle. So this has that it comes down to a point, and we can see that here. And we're all of the bands come down and connect to this point. It's a landmark that we didn't learn on the humerus. It's called the deltoid tuberosity. But again, we left the appendicular skeleton on the back bench. We didn't do that one. So what's the function for the deltoid? If you have your arm down to the side and you contract your deltoid, you'll see that your arm lifts up away from your center line. So that's going to be abduction. So we say that the deltoid abducts the humerus. Now, we're simplifying things here. First of all, the deltoid is actually made of three smaller submuscles, the acromial deltoid, the clavicular deltoid, and you'll see that when we dissecting cats. So if I haven't mentioned it before, the way we'll do this is we'll go over groups of muscles, and then we will look at them on the cat. We'll go over groups of muscles, go over them on the cat. And you'll see on your cat diagram that this is actually broken into several different muscles. All right, as we move down here in yellow, we have the biceps, and I'm going to add to that brachii because you have more than one set of biceps. On your legs and your hamstrings, one of the groups is called the biceps femoris. And it's called, where does the name come from? If you look, there's a crease that runs down the center here. If we could follow that up, we would see that there's actually two different, and you don't have to try to draw this on, but the biceps split into two groups. And if you're doing this with me in class, I will use an app that removes all of the top muscles so you can see what lies underneath. And you'll see that there are actually two origins for the biceps, and there's two different bellies of the muscle here. So we have a belly here and we have a belly here. And the insertion is on the forearm. But the job of the biceps is to flex the arm. Yeah, and it actually inserts on the radius. There's a tuberosity on the radius that it inserts. There's one muscle I want to pick up here, and I don't have it colored, so I'm just going to grab a Sharpie. And I'm trying to think, what color am I not using here? Orange. I'm going to do a light purple. You might be wondering why these are all colored with colored pencil. I did colored pencil instead of Sharpie because it's a little difficult to tell the Sharpie apart from each other. The colors start to kind of look the same. You get a little bit, I got better color differentiation with colored pencil. So the one that I just colored in is called the Brachialis. And this is a synergist. And it's found in between the biceps and the triceps. So I'll show you on another page where I have a little more space where the brachialis is located. As we move down the arm, you'll notice I don't have these colored. Back here, we're going to have the tricep. We'll do that on a different page. These are part of the flexors for the forearm. I'm just going to do one forearm muscle. I've cut these down since I first started teaching. We used to do a lot more, but this is supposed to be red. Doesn't necessarily look red, but this muscle is the brachioradialis. The brachioradialis. You can see this best if you take your hand and you turn it this way and you look at the muscle that's on top of the forearm. If you've ever done hammer curls, you'll know that you do a curl, you pull your wrist towards your shoulder with the wrist pronated. So the action here is pronation and flexion. It helps to pronate the forearm, and then you can also flex. Sometimes it's called the beer drinker's muscle. In Germany, they have these big beer steins. If you hold a beer stein and take it up to your mouth, you have your hand in the position where you're using the brachioradialis. Okay, that takes us to the muscles that we have over here, and by far the largest of these is in pink. This is the pectoralis. And we're going to add major here, the pectoralis major. There's a minor, so if you remove this, underneath it, you would have a very small muscle that would be the pectoralis minor. We don't worry about that so much. And humans have a fairly large pectoralis major, but it's nothing compared to chickens. Chickens have a huge, and any bird for that go, as far as that goes, has a huge pectoralis major. Well, think about the motions that birds make. So go ahead and do that motion with your arms right now. Basically, you're flapping your hand towards the center line. And you'll notice that you're bringing your hand, your humerus, towards your center line. So the major function for the pectoralis major is to adduct the humerus. Think about it, if you go to Kentucky Fried Chicken and you get a chicken breast, that's a big piece of muscle because birds have, when they fly, they're adducting their humerus. So if you're doing if you're an exercise fan, you'll know that when you are on the press bench, if you put weights up towards your center line, that's also that's working that muscle, adducting your humerus. All right, the last group that we have is in the light green, and that's down here. And they're actually found on the ribs. So they're attached to the ribs. And if you see someone who works out a lot and has low body fat, they look like, when you see their physique, it looks like they have these triangles to the side. These are called the serratus, S-E-R-R-A-T-U-S, serratus anterior muscles. You can really feel these being used if you put your, if you have someone put their hand on your back and you throw a hook. So if you're punching, you can throw a punch straight out, or you can throw a hook. You'll feel the shoulder blade wrap around the side of the body. And that requires these muscles to do that. So what they're actually doing is they're protracting the scapula. And we do that when we throw a hook. So these are sometimes called the boxer's muscles. And usually what I'll do in class is I'll pull up a picture of Oscar de la Hoya or another famous boxer. And these are usually very pronounced because boxers have done a lot of punches that build these groups. Okay, so those are our muscles of the chest. We had 2 that we'll review, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new ones. We have the actions for all of them, specifically with the brachialis. We just called it a synergist. And that'll take care of our chest muscles. On to the next group.